Dead Willow was the sort of place that burned secrets under the sun until there was nothing left but dry bones and rumor. Folks here knew how to look away from a man's shame, a child's hunger, a woman's desperate bargain. But nobody looked away when they found Rosa with half a loaf of bread tucked under her shawl. They called her a thief. Didn't matter that the bread was going stale behind the saloon's pantry door. Didn't matter that she'd traded her mother's last brooch for it, or would have, if she'd had time to speak before the barkeep's boots slammed her flat. On the dusty floorboards, now she dangled upside down from a post by the road that led nowhere good. Her ankles were bound with coarse rope, skin rubbed raw where the fibers bit in. Her wrists tied tight behind her back, pressed into the base of her spine. The sign nailed above her head read thief in sloppy, dripping red that looked too much like fresh blood when the sun hit it just right. Every so often, the wind would rise, stir the dust, and make the wooden plank creak. Rosa swung gently, hair sweeping the dirt beneath her like a dying broom. She'd stopped struggling an hour ago. Every twist only made the blood rush harder to her head, turned the world into a haze of heat and heartbeat. But through the haze, she felt him. The horse, a rangy palomino with a mane like sun-bleached straw and eyes dark as creek water under shade. He'd appeared the night before, trailing her from behind the livery barn, when she thought she'd lost everyone who ever bothered to care. He didn't wear a brand. Nobody claimed him. Maybe that's why she'd whispered her fears into his ear when she still had breath for words. Maybe he'd listened. Maybe he hadn't, but he stood there now, planted firm in the dust just a few steps from where she hung, and no tug, no whip, no boot had made him budge. Sheriff Mathis had tried. Red-faced, spitting tobacco juice onto Rosa's cheek when he leaned too close. "Move the beast," he'd barked at his deputies when the horse refused to follow the lead rope. They'd tried pulling, smacking his flank, shouting curses only. The wind bothered to carry away. The palomino hadn't twitched. He only stomped his hoof once, as if daring anyone to come closer. Inside the saloon, men laughed. One or two stepped out to watch Rosa sway, mugs of flat beer sweating in their fists. A few town wives peered through cracked windows, lips pursed tight so no pity might slip free and stain their tongues. Rosa saw them all through lashes sticky with dust. The good folk of Dead Willow, so quick to nail a sign to a girl's sins, but never their own. Her mind drifted, hunger mixing with fever, thirst clawing dry holes in her throat. She thought of the desert nights she'd braved when her father's wagon lost its wheel north of Eagle Pass. She'd slept under a sky so big it made her ribs ache, coyotes howling in the dark to remind her how small she was. Back then, she'd sworn she'd never beg. Better to starve on her own terms and crawl for scraps from men with cracked knuckles and heavier pockets. Yet here she was, dangling for bread no man would miss. Bones trembling under the sun's pitiless eye. The horse huffed. His breath stirred a strand of her hair where it clung to her cheek. Rosa forced her eyes open. The palomino's ears twitched at her whisper of breath. He shifted one hoof, then planted it again, immovable, loyal to nothing but whatever spark in him refused to leave her alone. A boot scuffed the dirt. Not the sheriff's boot, too heavy, too smug. This step was softer. Rosa blinked. A shape blocked the sun. A man, fringe hung from the seams of his trail-worn coat, dark hair tied back under the brim of a battered hat. His face was half shadow, half sunburned leather and hard lines drawn by years with no easy shelter. He didn't say a word. Didn't spit or gawk like the others. Just studied her like he was deciding if she was worth the trouble. Rosa's tongue stuck to her teeth. No plea would come. She'd wasted the last of her pride on silent curses an hour ago. If this stranger wanted something from her, he'd have to take it from a girl too spent to fight. Behind him, Sheriff Mathis pushed through the saloon doors, dully first, voice thick with beer and his own sense of law. "Ain't your business." "Friend," he called out, voice sliding oily over the heat. "She's property of this town now, Justice. You best keep walking." The stranger said nothing. His hand dropped to a blade strapped to his hip, worn handle wrapped in rawhide. Nicked steel that looked like it had opened more than just bread sacks. He stepped closer, boots crunching dry earth. His eyes flicked once to the Palomino. The horse snorted, as if giving permission only he and the stranger could understand. Mathis's grin faltered. He shifted his weight, one hand hovering near the pistol, riding his gut like a promise of violence. Rosa's pulse kicked at her ribs, slow at first, then faster, drumming a beat she hadn't felt since her mother's lullabies under canvas stars. The wind carried the hush of the street between them all. Lawman, outlaw girl, horse. A single brittle moment that felt like it could snap into gunfire, or mercy, or both. Rosa's vision swam again, black pinpricks dancing at the edges. She clung to the stranger's silhouette like a cliff edge she might drag herself over if only her hands were free. The Palomino shifted, nudging closer, warmth brushing her tangled hair. And in that heartbeat, hung like a thief, ragged and hollow-eyed, Rosa dared to hope the rope might not hold forever.